Since Google Analytics updated to version 4 or GA4, I found that it's been not terribly user-friendly for a typical SME, small to medium enterprise. Great if you're a corporate, but if you're a small to medium-sized business, there's better ways. If you're running WordPress, I found a nice alternative that's pretty straightforward to set up, easy to get to your statistics, uncomplicated, gets you what you need to know. It's called Matomo. Let's have a look at setting that up today. G'day, I'm Jason Foss. So we've got here a pretty basic WordPress install to start off with. Nothing much going on here at this point in time. But to get Matomo installed, we'll go to Plugins and Add New, M-A-T-O-M-O, into the search box. And install now. All right, so activate it. And once activated, that will take you to a welcome page. And it's pretty simple, just click Enable Tracking Now. Now, this bit of code here, if you are in the EU or selling to customers in the EU, you'll want to put this on. I believe California in the United States has got some similar laws on the way, or they might be running now. Not required technically in Australia at the moment, but I did see an article last week where the government is starting to talk about updating some privacy legislation, and the article was suggesting that it will have an impact on small to medium business. So while you're here on the screen, I would just do this now anyway, and it's done. It's certainly not going to hurt. So basically you copy that bit there between the square brackets and find the privacy policy page on your website. Now, any relatively recent versions of WordPress or installs of WordPress will have a draft one there. It is a draft one, and it probably needs to be customized to your circumstances. I don't think they specifically mention anything about collection of analytics or that sort of thing. So you probably want to review this, but what you want to do is just paste that bit of code there in the square brackets on a new line. Now, if you publish that, and you'd put it around where you're talking about your collection of analytics as well. And what it'll do is it'll put that up there. So that allows people to opt out of having Matomo track them, which is a requirement in the EU, and I think in California, and maybe here in Australia before too long. So once you've done that, come back to Matomo Analytics, and we can then say don't show that page anymore because we're done there. Now, the next thing I would do is go to Settings. Usually you'll see this. I have installed a couple of times, and the first page has looked a bit like that for some reason. So if you see that, just go to Default Tracking. You should see that. Change your currency, Australian dollar. Now, by default, Matomo will track WooCommerce. So if you have WooCommerce installed, leave this on, and it'll track products and sales and abandoned carts and bits and pieces like that. If you don't have WooCommerce installed, turn that off. If you've got a search box on your website, I'd turn that on. That can weigh. This isn't tracking people who've Googled you and got you through a Google search, but they're already on your website. If you've got a search box on your website and they type something in, looking at that information can help you determine, is there something that people are looking for that they're having trouble finding? That's sort of something you might want to make easy to find, bring higher up the page, put in a more prominent place in your menu, something like that. If you don't have a search box on your website, then you don't need to worry about that either. The rest of this is a bit more advanced stuff, and we will leave that for another day. So I've saved that. Then I will go to Matomo Admin. This part is pretty important. So if we come to Privacy and Anonymized Data, I'll scroll past that, and we've got two boxes here. Now, what happens is, because this is installed inside WordPress, every time somebody visits your page or clicks something or does something, that's putting an entry in your database. And over time, that database is going to grow and grow and grow. And if you never prune it, it's going to balloon out and either crash your website or crash the web server that the website's sitting on. So we want to trim that back from time to time. So I'm going to tick this first one. 180 is the default. I'm going to save that. Now the password I'm putting in here is my WordPress login password. So you don't need any additional logins to get to this stuff. The password you use to log into WordPress is the password you need here. I'm going to tick that one, save, and pop in password there too. No, I think I typed that incorrectly. I'm going to save that again. That's it, settings updated. Okay, so just to explain what we've done there, after about 6 months, all of the raw log files that are in your database will get deleted. That's not as bad as it sounds because they'll be accumulated into daily, weekly, monthly reports. So you can still look at reports for those days, weeks and months, just the actual raw log files are gone. Next one is about our saved reports. So after 12 months, after a year, we're deleting daily reports, weekly reports, and some other bits and pieces here. We're keeping monthly and yearly reports though. Now, I'm fine with that. Your use case might vary, but from my point of view, I can't see me wanting to look at a daily or a weekly report from a couple of years ago. If you're looking back that far, a monthly report or a yearly report is probably fine. If your use case is different, then adjust accordingly, but I think this is going to be fine 99% of the time. And the other thing I would do here, and this is just optional, if you go to personal and settings, you can change the default time frame where a report displays when you first load it. I just tend to look at the last 30 days just to give you a bit of an idea, but that bit's completely optional. Once you've done that, we can come back to WordPress admin. Let's just get that out of the way. We don't need that anymore. Now to check it and make sure it's okay, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to come and click on that, and I'm going to come and click on that and click on that. Just click around a few pages. Come back to Matomo Analytics and look at our summary, and oh, it says zeros. So don't panic, this is to be expected. What we see here is based on reports that it will generate, and I think it updates about every hour, I think, don't quote me on that. And it might depend on how busy your website is as well, but about every hour, this data will update. If you want to check if it's happening now, we go to reporting, and you can see visits in real time here. And so we can see there's the pages I've looked at and some stuff about, browser and operating system and bits and pieces like that. You can also come here to visitors and look at real time and see a longer list beyond that summary if you wish. So that tells us, yes, the clicks are working, it's tracking, everything's okay. So if we wanted to actually see some information on this page straight up, you're really excited, you want to see these numbers, you can come down to diagnostics and go to troubleshooting, and click Archive Reports. Now, archiving is the process of grabbing that raw data and putting it into a report that you then see on that first summary page. You don't need to do this, as I said, as long as it's there in the raw log file that we looked at before in the real-time section, it will show up in an hour. So you don't have to do this, but if you're excited and you want to, if I then come back to summary, I did click that right, didn't I? Troubleshooting. Archive reports, summary. Oh, there we go. Okay, just being a bit fussy. Maybe you need to do it twice on the first time round. And now you can see a summary of what's happened here. Now, that clicking the manually trigger an archive is probably the only thing you need to worry about is if you've had this installed and you've got no data for a day or two and it looks like something's gone wrong and there is stuff happening in real time, you can then manually trigger an archive if you need to. I've installed this on quite a few sites now. I've only had it happen on one site that was fairly busy, so most of the time you won't need to worry about that. So that's fine, that's all working. We've got our basic stats installed there. It's tracking page views and downloads and outbound links, if people click out to external websites from yours, like off to your Facebook page or Instagram or whatever, and on-site searches if you've got that set up like we did before. So that's all fine, but we're missing something important here. If somebody clicks a phone number on your website to call you, that's a conversion, that's a win. We'd want to know about that. Similarly, if somebody clicks an email link on your website to send you an email, we'd want to know about that as well. So Matomo doesn't track those things by default. It does come with a tag manager, similarly to Google Analytics. So if you want to get really advanced and run it all through a tag manager, you certainly can. I'm trying to keep this a little more straightforward and simple than that though. So I found a bit of code that will do that for us. And this is it here. So I'm going to just copy this now. I can't remember where I found this now. So if you wrote this, please leave a note in the comments so I can give you some credit. And thank you, by the way. So I'll come back here now that I've copied that. We need to get this code onto the footer of the website. Now, I tend to use SEO Press rather than Yoast as an SEO plugin. I just find it's better for a number of reasons. But inside of SEO Press, we've got custom tracking. So I can come down here and into the footer, paste that, and I've got that tracking code there in the footer. If you're using something different, like Yoast, for example, I don't think it comes with this ability. I don't think, the last time I looked at it. There is another plugin though called AddFunc, ADDFUNC. If you search for that, that will give you boxes similar to this, and it will appear under the settings menu here, header and footer code. So if you install that plugin, there'll be an option there, and you can do the same thing if you don't have another way to do it. But basically you want to get this code into the footer, save changes. Now what that's doing, just to break down this quickly in case you want to customize it, this first bit here is to do with a phone link. TEL : is the prefix for a phone link. So that's saying that track this event, contact is the category, phone is the action, and the value is the actual phone number clicked. Mail to : is the email link. Again, same category, contact, action I've called email, and the value is the actual email address. So that's the information it's going to send. Now, if you want to use different categories and actions to those, you can quite easily change those. I did change them a bit from the code that I found. That's how I like it to be set up, but you know, if you want to change it, feel free. But if you leave it like that, these next steps will work as well. So I'm going to come back here now that I've put that tracking code on, and on sample page, not unsample page, on the sample page, I've just put these two links in. So there's my mail to link. Now if I hover over that, you'll notice if you look down the bottom corner here as I hover, you see it says mail to : meathome.com.au. So that's our mail to : prefix. And the link for the phone number is TEL : and then the phone number. If your links to your email address and your phone number start with mail to and tell, then this will work. So I'm going to click that. Don't actually want to dial the number, but I've clicked the link. Similarly with email, don't need to send the email, but I've clicked the link. So if I now come back here and go to Matomo and go to reporting, because I want to look at the real-time live view. So when we're looking at this real-time report here, we can see I've got these events here. Now I've clicked these a couple of times to make sure it was working just now. So ordinarily you would just see, you know, one for your email and one for your phone. And if they don't show up straight away, just click refresh there, and just to make sure they show up. So now our phone number clicks and our email clicks are working. One more step to make this data useful to us is I'll come back to there. I need to go back to my settings screen and measurables, and we can now set these up as goals. So if I add a new goal, I'm going to call this email link clicked. When visitors send an event with the action contains email. Now you can add a value in there as well, a revenue value. So if you know that an average sale value is $100 and every second time somebody emails you, you make a sale, that means that this email is worth $50. That's a really just basic example of what I'm talking about. So you can definitely put a number in there if one kind of makes sense. Similarly with phone number clicked. Oops, click. Same deal, send an event where action contains phone. Similarly, you can put a revenue value in there if it's appropriate. And the last one I'm going to put in is if somebody fills in an inquiry form, you want to know about that as well. You want to be able to measure that as a goal or a unit of success. So I'm going to say inquiry form completed. Now, this one, I haven't set up a form on this site yet, but generally what I do, and if you've got any inquiry forms on your website, A lot of them by default will reload the same page that the form's on and just say thanks for your submission on there. What you want to do instead is have a completely separate page that says, thanks for your inquiry, we'll be in touch soon, and maybe you can put some social media links or some email newsletter sign up or some other bits and pieces on that. But if you have a totally separate thank you page that your form then redirects to after a submission, you can have that page as the trigger for a form submission goal. So I've got inquiry form submitted here. When a given URL is visited and it contains, I think that's just saying thank is pretty universally useful. Your page might be called thanks. It might be called thank you. Either way, that's going to catch loading that page. Now, if you do that, you do want to make sure that that thank you page has got no index marked against it so that Google doesn't index it and people don't find it accidentally. And the other thing you need to be mindful for as well is if your domain name, for example, contains thank, then this thing's going to trigger all the time, so you'll need to do something a bit different. But as long as those 5 letters thank don't appear anywhere else in any other URLs or addresses on your website, this is a pretty safe catch-all for any inquiry form submissions, as long as after the submission you're redirecting to this separate thank you page. So there are 3 standard goals that I would set up. So I'm going to come back to WordPress admin, and I'm going to come back here again, and I'm going to go to my sample page, click that again, don't save it, click that again, don't make the call. But if I come back here now, back to my real-time reporting, you'll see that I'm now starting to have these little flags next to what I've done. These are goals, these are conversion goals. So if I can then, break that reporting down a bit more, but if I just come back to WordPress admin, and I'm going to go diagnostics, and I'm just going to trigger this archive again and come back to my summary. Now, is this going to work for me this time? I've scrolled straight past it. Yes, it did work. So I can see I've had 2 conversions, a phone number click and an email click. 1 visit with the conversion, which is me. One visit has triggered both conversions. And if you did have revenue values attached to them, you can get an idea of, well, even if you're not actually selling something online, if an inquiry is worth so much to you, you can get an indication of how well things are going there by having that dollar value there against your goals. Now from here, there's one more thing you might want to do with your setup. So I'll come back to settings, Matomo admin, personal, and email reports. Now, the beauty of this is that if you've got access to log in your website, you can jump in and pull out whatever numbers you want whenever you like. They're very easy to get to. But if you want to schedule an email to yourself, we can kick that in here. Description is an optional field you can put in if you wish. I tend to think, monthly is probably a better frequency for an email, unless you want it more, weekly or daily. That's up to you. The rest of that's fine. I would come down past all of those. All those defaults are fine. And then there's a bunch of different reports that you could send yourself. I tend to think for the most part, just the summary at the top of each one. If you had e-commerce turned on, there'd be an e-commerce section there as well. We'll just give you, description's not optional. It is required, if I could type. So by clicking the first box in each section, that just gives you a bit of an overview summary of what's going on. You can obviously, they'll customize that to whatever you want. And so every month now, that will trigger an email to you with those basic stats, whatever boxes you've ticked in there. One last trick before we wrap this up. You might notice from the dashboard here, we've got these little pins. So if there's a specific thing here that you would like to see on your WordPress dashboard, you can click that pin, come back to your dashboard, and it will be down here somewhere. There it is. So I can then just drag that somewhere up there and have that little bit on the dashboard so it's there, easy to get to every single time I log in. So there you have it, an easy way to access your visitor behavior, your traffic sources, device usage, desktop versus mobile, all that kind of thing, right from within your WordPress dashboard. Setup is pretty straightforward, and you don't need any separate accounts or logins to get to anything. And you've made it to the end of another one. Like button, subscribe, and other videos will be around here if you wanted to have a look at those. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.